The Big Six, pioneers of the Civil Rights Movement. The Big Six refers to a group of six prominent civil rights leaders who played a crucial role in shaping the movement in the 1960s. These individuals were instrumental in organizing the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, a pivotal event in the civil rights movement. The Big Six came together through their work with various civil rights organizations. A. Philip Randolph, a labor organizer, and Bayard Rustin, a civil rights activist, were key figures in bringing the group together. They were joined by Martin Luther King Jr., leader of the SCLC, James Farmer Jr., founder of the Congress of Racial Equality, John Lewis, chairman of the SNCC, and Roy Wilkins, executive director of the NAACP. Here is a rarely seen video of 5 of the Big Six being interviewed about their upcoming March on Washington.
Time out of a terribly busy schedule to talk with us this evening. I know that the entire country, and certainly the President of the United States and some congressmen, would like to know about the plans for a march on Washington. Mr. Wilkins, would you like to tell us what are the plans as of this date?
The plan is for a huge march to the Lincoln Memorial and a meeting there. On the way, what was described as a brief demonstration at the White House. But we hope to have this an outpouring of expression on the part of the people who wish Congress and the nation to know how they feel, how very deeply they feel about civil rights legislation. I think it's fair to say, wouldn't you say, Martin, that this is no attempt to blackjack anybody? We want to show how we feel.
Exactly. We are not going to Washington to intimidate any congressman or any senator. It will give a large number of people an opportunity to articulate their longings and aspirations for freedom, their desire to see meaningful, forthright civil rights legislation in this session of Congress. And of course, we also intend to arouse the conscience of the nation over the economic plight of the Negro 100 years after emancipation. And I think it can have a great impact. I think it will dramatize the issue. It will have educational value in that it will allow many people to see and understand the continued indignities and injustices which Negroes confront all over the nation.
All over the country, it has captured the imagination of hundreds of thousands of people. Now, we don't know how many of them will be marching to Washington, but a goodly number will. They feel keenly about this, and they want the seat of government. They want the American conscience to know how they feel.
You're aware that the President has cautioned that he would just as soon have the march postponed or not occur.
We see this as an all-inclusive demonstration of our belief in the President's program, and since it has been declared to be an orderly demonstration with a rally, at which time I hope to be one of the people who will speak in the interest of the Urban League toward preparing people for the new opportunities. At this level, we will be cooperating.
Now, I think it's important that the march go off because there is legislation which many people have gone to jail for the substance. That is, the lunch counter demonstrations throughout the South have to be sort of brought to some climax, and it could be done in this public accommodations bill, which is before the Congress. Then, of course, it just left the Delta and a lot of poor people over there, people who make $2.25 a day for 12 hours of work. And so some legislation has to come out of the Congress of the United States to deal with these problems.
People like Agnes Myers, Roy, president of the board of the NAACP, and other white liberals and friends have cautioned against having a major demonstration for civil rights this summer. How do you...
Well, it's our position in the NAACP that the opponents of civil rights legislation left no doubt as soon as the president spoke. In fact, they didn't wait for him to speak. They began announcing their opposition and what they intended to do. They were going to filibuster, they were going to hold up appropriation measures, they were scaring the country that they weren't going to get a tax cut on account of civil rights. They're doing all the boogeyman stunts. And if they're going to use Washington as their base of operations for opposition to this bill, we don't see anything wrong with using Washington as our base to indicate support for this bill. And in my estimation, this march is going to be a 100% outpouring of the disgust and distress of black Americans and white liberals over the way the Congress has handled this bill.
I think that in any such demonstration as the march, which is planned, you will expect loud outpouring of cries, of fears from many, many people who don't want it to take place, who are afraid that something might happen. But it seems to me that it reflects a lack of understanding of the nature of the times in which we are living.
Members of the Big Six were A. Philip Randolph, a labor organizer and civil rights activist. Randolph was a key figure in the March on Washington. He played a crucial role in organizing the 1963 march, which drew hundreds of thousands of people to the National Mall. Martin Luther King Jr. As the leader of the SCLC, King was a prominent figure in the civil rights movement. He delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech during the March on Washington, which became a defining moment of the movement. James Farmer Jr., founder of CORE. The farmer was a key organizer of the Freedom Rides, a series of protests against segregation on public transportation. He also played a crucial role in planning the March on Washington. John Lewis. As chairman of the SNCC, Lewis was a key figure in the civil rights movement. He participated in the Freedom Rides and was a keynote speaker at the March on Washington. Roy Wilkins. As executive director of the NAACP, Wilkins was a prominent figure in the civil rights movement. He played a key role in planning the March on Washington and worked closely with other civil rights leaders to advance the movement. Whitney Young Jr. Although not always included in the list of the Big Six members, Young was a key figure in the civil rights movement. As executive director of the National Urban League, he worked to promote economic empowerment and social justice for African Americans. The Big Six made big contributions to the civil rights movement. They worked together to plan and execute the March on Washington, which drew hundreds of thousands of people to the National Mall. The march helped to galvanize public support for the civil rights movement and paved the way for the passage of landmark legislation, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Big Six also worked to promote economic empowerment and social justice for African Americans. They advocated for equal access to education, employment, and health care, and worked to challenge systematic racism and discrimination. The Big Six were a group of visionary leaders who played a crucial role in shaping the civil rights movement. Their contributions to the movement helped to pave the way for significant advances in social justice and equality. Today, their legacy continues to inspire and empower people around the world. So thank you to the Big Six for your contribution to the civil rights movement.